We talk it out, no time to waste. Ooh, yeah. Face to face, we set the pace. Hey, hey. Love so strong, no need to race. We hold it tight in every space, making it last. Oh, making it last. Yeah, yeah. Through the future, through the past. Building it high, keeping it fast. Communication, making it last. Making it last. Oh, making it last. Yeah, yeah. Through the future, through the past. Building it high, keeping it fast. Communication, making it last.
It's time for another conversation. Welcome to Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. I'm Noreen Daly, and with me this time around is Jay Heinrichs. He is an author of a New York Times best-selling book. Thank you for arguing. I love that title. He also helps universities, nonprofit groups with persuasion problems. Welcome, Jay.
Thanks, Noreen.
Before I introduce the topic, though, tell me a little bit about your book and why that title.
Well, if I can tell a longish story here, I'll try to make it brief.
Mm-hmm.
I, like many of your listeners, love books. And when I was growing up, I honestly wasn't a very good student. So I hung out in the library, pulling down books at random. And all along, I thought, words do more than just sit around looking pretty. They have power.
Yeah.
And if you think they get words have the power to get you to believe in God, they get soldiers
Mm-hmm.
sacrifice their lives to the power of words. Governments succeed and fail by that power. And all along, as a child and then a young adult, I wondered, how do I understand that power? And where is it? Where's it come from? What's it about?
Mm-hmm.
And but all through college, I pursued that. Now, rhetoric, which is all about the power of words,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't taught at my very good college I went to. I went to graduate school briefly,
Mm-hmm.
realized that academia and I wouldn't get along very well, so dropped out.
Okay.
Uh, but it wasn't until years later I was working as an administrator at Dartmouth College here in New
Mm-hmm.
Hampshire, where I live.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wandering through the open stacks, bored in my job, and pulling down books at random the way I did when I was a kid. And I
Mm-hmm.
came across a book, I think it was because it was in red leather and all the other books were kind of gray and black, in a part of the library where the books were covered with cobwebs. Like nobody had been in this
Wow.
section of the library. And I
Wow.
thought, I wonder what this is. I pulled down this red leather bound book, and it was signed by John Quincy Adams, who went at the time was a United States Senator. And the book said that he was a professor of rhetoric and oratory at Harvard. At the time he was a U.S. Senator. He's 38 years old, later became president, of course.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, I open it up, and the first thing I read it was a series of lectures. And the first lecture read, tell these young boys, they were, of course, they were all boys back then,
Mm-hmm.
teenagers. He told them to catch from the relics of ancient oratory those unresisted powers which mold the mind of man to the will of the speaker and yield the guidance of the nation to the dominion of the voice. In other words, he was saying
Mm-hmm.
this is about the power of words. So
Mm-hmm.
I read everything John Quincy Adams told me to read, bothered my family for the next 20 years. Finally, my wife told me to quit my last legitimate job and write a book to get this out of my system. My wife is very wise. I do everything she says, but this did not get the power of words out of my system. It only made me more passionate. So I ended up writing this book, which I thought no one would want to read. Who wants to read about argument? Um, but it turns out people really did because what this does is I introduce rhetoric, which has to
Mm-hmm.
do with how to use the power of words for good or for evil. That's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
But also, and this is the topic of our conversation, I understand it, Noreen, how
Mm-hmm.
to avoid being manipulated. How do you inoculate yourself against manipulation?
Yeah. You somewhat introduced it, but let me just tell my audience, viewers and listeners, how can we avoid being manipulated by slick persuaders? So how, Jay? How?
So now I love your use of the word slick because what that implies is somebody who is seductive, like someone who's just going to make you want what they want you to want. So one of the biggest things to watch out for is people are going to work off your desires to
Mm,
sell a car to a sports car that costs way too much and isn't very practical to a man. Place a beautiful woman beside that car
mm,
and hope that your market are all heterosexual men. Now, what does that have to do with the car? Nothing.
nothing.
But it builds desire. That is very slick advertising, right? Now,
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, one of the things that allow people to manipulate others and make them regret the next morning what they did is to build trust in ways that kind of fool people about who the speaker is. So now, the philosopher I go to all the time for rhetoric is the man
Mm-hmm.
who wrote the original book on rhetoric, Aristotle.
Mm-hmm.
Aristotle wrote this book, by the way, probably at the end of his life, after he had written his ethics and logic and
Mm-hmm.
uh, poetics and all that stuff. So this was like
Mm-hmm.
the summation of what he knew about humans. And one of the things Aristotle came up with was this idea of what makes a trustworthy person, what makes you trust people. And he used the term ethos, which is common to us today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there are three characteristics of a trustworthy person. Now, those characteristics may not be real, but the trick is for a slick persuader to make you believe they are. So the first characteristic, he called practical wisdom. He used the word phronesis in Greek, which means
Mm-hmm.
making people believe that you understand the problem and you have the right solution for it. So you have this combination of experience
Mm-hmm.
and knowledge that makes people believe you can solve that problem. Now, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people voted for President Trump first time around because they said he was a successful businessman. So, okay, he could make America's economy great again. Okay, that's one characteristic of ethos.
Mm-hmm.
Second one, Aristotle called disinterested goodwill. In Greek, it's eunoia, which means good name.
Mm-hmm.
So disinterested goodwill is a term that Americans really don't do well with because disinterest, we often think means a lack of interest, like we don't
Mm-hmm.
care, when
Mm-hmm.
actually it
Mm-hmm.
sort of means almost the opposite. It means that you're interested only in what the interest is of your audience, of the person you're trying to persuade. It's like, I'm in it for you. And again, I hate to go back to Trump again, and I have to tell you, I'm no fan.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't take a salary for being president the first time. He could make money off the presidency in other ways, but we won't go there.
Mm-hmm.
So now, so you've got practical wisdom and people's belief that you know how to solve whatever they want solved. Disinterest, which has to do with, I'm in it for you. I'm going to sacrifice for your own good. The
Mm-hmm.
third and most important, he called arete. Now, a lot of
Okay.
Christians know that term because it's often translated as virtue. What it
Okay.
means is making your audience believe you share their values and that you live up to those values. You're no hypocrite. Okay, so there's three things. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I shorten all these and simplify them to craft, caring, and
Mm-hmm.
cause. Craft means you know what you're doing, you solve the problem. Caring means I care about
Mm-hmm.
you. And cause means we share a common effort, share a common set of values and a cause that goes with them. Those three, you combine those three things, and people are going to trust you. They're going to think you're part of their tribe, and they will follow you anywhere. Now that's where people get into trouble because the slickest persuaders make you believe
Mm-hmm.
they have those three qualities.
We talk it out, no time to waste. Ooh, yeah. Face to face, we set the pace. Hey, hey. Love so strong, no need to race.
There may be times when you think you're being manipulated. this is the conversation that you need to continue listening to. But we must take a break and get a word from our partners.
Have you not yet booked Miss Noreen Daly for your events? Are you crazy? Miss Noreen Daly is the best at watching. Well, let me tell you a little more. I handpicked her for a conflict resolution webinar, and she demonstrated exactly what a host should do when hosting. Hello, somebody? She was the life of it all. She did not leave any dead ear even when we had technical difficulties. She's just merely the best. And if you know book her yet, you're crazy. Run go book Miss Noreen Daly right now.
War is humanity arguing with bullets instead of wisdom. When words fail, weapons speak. But what do they really say? They speak of loss, of broken homes, of lives that will never be the same again. We've seen it before. Nations choosing power over peace, conflict over conversation. But real strength is not found in destruction. It's found in restraint, in understanding, in choosing peace when war feels easier. Because in the end, bullets don't solve problems. They only silence the voices that could have.
This message is brought to you by NoreenDaily.com and NSoundMedia.com. In a world full of noise, NSound Media delivers voices that matter. From podcasts that challenge and inspire, to streaming TV that uplifts and informs, to music and stories you won't hear anywhere else. This is media built for community, culture, and truth. Independent, bold, unfiltered. Streaming worldwide and growing every day. Download, listen, watch. Join the movement that puts real voices front and center. NSound Media, streaming innovation amplified.
Welcome back.
We talk it out, no time to waste. Face to face, we set the pace. Hey, hey. Love so strong, no need to race.
Do you think this is, because I remember you initially used an advertising or sales ad to illustrate this whole idea, but do you think this goes beyond just advertising and even in relationships? And if so, how then in relationships can somebody be inoculated? Because I love the use of that word earlier.
Well, I can speak personally because I married um, a woman who was way out of my league. And I managed to convince her that I had those three qualities. So you could say I'm the slick. I mean, the fact that we were still married, we're about to celebrate our 44th anniversary.
Wow. Okay.
That I think that says more about her than me, honestly. But I was able to convince her that I had those qualities that she shared. So it is, if you want to be a really good persuader, having those qualities for real, like
Mm-hmm.
knowing that you genuinely have a solution to the problem and that you're
Mm-hmm.
open to hearing other solutions, that's great. Like
Mm-hmm.
people should trust you. If you truly care about the other people and you really want to solve their problems, that's excellent. And then finally, if you hold the highest values and you live up to them,
Mm-hmm.
all those three things makes it a lot easier to persuade people that you have them. The trick is, and Aristotle himself
Mm-hmm.
taught these things. There are a lot of tricks you can use if you don't have those values to make people believe you have them. Now that applies to corporations, products, but
Mm-hmm.
also to political parties, politicians, anyone who wants to convince anybody of anything. And this can even be, you really have a proposal you want to make of some project you're excited
Mm-hmm.
about in your university or your company. Getting people to trust you means making sure that you have all those three characteristics aligned. Now, when it comes to applying for jobs, it's the same thing. Now, things have
Mm-hmm.
changed because you now have robots reading resumes. So you have to make sure you
Yeah.
hit the right marks with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I tell people, like, to understand yourself, look at your resume or your CV and see whether you're portraying all three qualities. So, okay, practical wisdom, that's what a resume
Mm-hmm.
is about. Like, here's
Mm-hmm.
my
Mm-hmm.
experience, here's my
Mm-hmm.
education. But what about your disinterested goodwill? What causes do you represent? What have you
Mm-hmm.
volunteered for? And can you show ways that you work harder than anybody? In just in the language you use in that resume. And thirdly,
Yeah.
what are your values? What do you truly value? So, for example, why are you in the profession? You
Mm-hmm.
know, what's your profession? How do you profess what you do? And that's
Yeah.
those three characteristics can make for a very winning document.
Okay. I'm going to flip it slightly because even though the topic is how can we avoid being manipulated by slick persuaders, there is a myth or a misconception that anytime people think of the whole idea of persuasion, it is something negative. What then would you say then to somebody who will listen and watch this to say persuasion, and even if it is that the person is being slick, sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Oh, I love that question. I think it's one of the most important questions to ask at a time like this when we are losing our faith in democracy. See, American founders, the one education they all had in common was rhetoric. They actually studied rhetoric and they had this deep belief that
Mm-hmm.
through debate, through argument, we can resolve our problems. The whole Enlightenment was based upon,
Mm-hmm.
which is this idea that people can come together from different perspectives and even different values and
Mm-hmm.
find what they share. And by arguing with each other, come up with a common solution,
Mm-hmm.
what in ancient rhetoric is called consensus. And
Mm-hmm.
so now, if we fail to do that, when you think about that, what else is there other than being able to share our disagreements and come up with a common solution? Often violence has been the answer or the threat of violence. And so I think that's the greatest danger facing humanity today is when we lose that faith. So, yeah, slick, not slick, argument.
Mm-hmm.
The American founders believed, and I believe, are an answer. Are they a perfect answer? Absolutely not.
Not. Mm-hmm.
No, and there are times when people make bad choices based on the quality of the argument or how slick the person was.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I can change that a little bit, if we can go back to manipulation, Noreen. Mind if I do
Mm-hmm.
that?
Mm-hmm. That's
Because
fine.
so we've talked about ethos. There's another
Mm-hmm.
aspect of rhetoric called logos, which has to do with
Mm-hmm.
logic and the language used.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So another way to see whether you're being manipulated is to look for fallacies. Now, the moment I start mentioning that, people fall asleep. They get bored because it is
Mm-hmm.
the most boring part of
Mm-hmm.
teaching rhetoric is the logical
Mm-hmm.
part. That being said, all of logic, when it comes to argument, comes down to something pretty simple. It's just got two parts to it. One is the proof or the premise, and
Mm-hmm.
the other is the conclusion. So if I say, um, um, it looks like it's raining, better bring an umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
That is what Aristotle called an enthymeme. It's this little piece, two-part piece of logic. So, okay, looks like it's raining. Now you've got to judge for yourself. Does it really? Like the sun is out. I see a few clouds. So, first of all, I don't think it looks like it's raining. So already you
Mm-hmm.
can dismiss this. But suppose it does look like it's raining. We should bring an umbrella. Now ask yourself, well, we're driving the way we're going. Do we really need an umbrella? So
Mm-hmm.
does this premise or proof lead to the conclusion? And when someone says the word because or therefore, you're hearing an enthemy. You're hearing this two-part piece of logic. So when someone says to you, here is the fact, here is what it leads to. Because of this, we should do that. You have to ask both sides of this. First, do I believe that fact? And
Mm-hmm.
secondly, does that fact really lead to what this person wants me to do? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. 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 With all of what you said though, and as we're wrapping up, if you had to identify one major technique or say principle to avoid being manipulated, what would that technique be?
I'll give you one tool really
Okay.
quick.
Mm-hmm.
Often, what happens when you're being manipulated, people watch what tense people are in, past, present, or future. If they're
Mm,
talking in the past tense, they're often blaming you or somebody else. That's not going to solve anything. If they're talking in the present tense, they're
interesting.
talking about values, and that could be great. It makes for the best sermons. But see if people are capable of talking about what's going to happen in the future. What are we going to do to solve this problem? And what will be the benefits of what you want? And do those benefits really apply to me and what I want? Now, watch the
Mm.
tense. And I'll tell you what, people who tell me they do this say it's absolutely changed things for them. For one thing, it improves the mood because nothing bad has ever happened in the future.
Mm. Mm. Excellent note to end on. Thank you so much for sharing, Jay.
Nuri, such a pleasure. I really enjoyed this.
This was Making It Last podcast, where it's all about helping us to have better relationships, not just with ourselves, but with other people. I'm Noreen Daly. Until next time.
We talk it out, no time to waste. Ooh, yeah. Face to face, we set the pace. Hey, hey. Love so strong, no need to race. We hold it tight in every space, making it last. Oh, making it last. Yeah, yeah. Through the future, through the past. Building it high, keeping it fast. Communication, making it last. Making it last. Oh, making it last. Yeah, yeah. Through the future, through the past. Building it high, keeping it fast. Communication, making it last.